Hey everyone, quick programming note. I'm not on the show this week. Some colossal computer failure thing. I don't know. Once I get moved back into my office, which is a long story, I hope to have that story end soon. This will be more streamlined. Been a little bumps in the road here, but stick with me, okay? So, really a big shout out to Nicole for running the show and for Scott for providing a bunch of cool information. I just listened through the show, and yeah, you can if you have a voice and you can publish a book too. So stick around; it's a great one.
Hey guys, welcome to Garden Fork, the eclectic DIY show. You're here today with Nicole and with Scott, without Eric. Hey Scott. Scott, why don't you introduce yourself? You've been on the podcast a couple times in the way back. So tell us about you.
Okay, well, I'm kind of known as the Garden Fork agronomist, so I've been quite a few times. Just over the years, just talking about gardening stuff and farming stuff and that. But why I came on today is that I have a book out, and I think it could be something interesting for anybody that's listening that's either in farming or gardening or just wants to know about climate smart agriculture. But I think, or what I pitched to you about talking was about us talking about book publishing, because you were looking at publishing a book again. And
Yes.
you've published a book, or a couple books already.
I've only done one, one so far. No, that's so exciting. I think that there's a podcast that recently was talking about climate smart gardening or farming and about the need for the top layer, the top cover. So well, first, tell us the title of your book.
So the title is Practical Regeneration, and the subtitle is Realistic Strategies for Climate Smart Agriculture.
Okay. And so is it like a how like hands-on, this is how you do it?
Pardon?
Is it hands-on, like this is actually how you would do it?
It's not like a how-to manual, because I think there's too many of those out there that tell you everything that they think you should be doing.
Okay.
Because there's so many differences just across climates and even in just very small different areas. So what it is basically it's taking what I've seen over, well, actually almost a couple decades of agronomy work here and saying what actually works and what maybe you can skip or is not really economical, even if it maybe makes sense to do.
Okay.
And one of the ways I have of explaining it is that it's very similar to we see all of the health messaging, like eat healthy foods and exercise and sleep well. But then you go to the grocery store and that avocado and ancient grains bread is like 3 times the price of just an apple and whole wheat bread.
Right.
And you're probably fine with just apple and whole wheat bread. You don't have to have all that special stuff, because it adds up when you try to do all that. And so there's a lot of great ideas. There's a lot of great things to do, but you have to make it work on a farm scale.
Right. Because ultimately farmers need to make money. You're trying to sustain your families. Well, I just a couple months ago found out about the farming game. Do you know this board game?
Yes, I have. I've seen it, or I've seen it in stores, or seen it in different places, but I've never played it. So,
well, it was a 99%. It was a different podcast where I heard about it, and it sounded really fun. And so we got it. I would call it like Monopoly, but for farming. But I did feel like it gave my kids and even myself an idea of like, first of all, it's really hard, and then the seasonal nature of being a farmer, that you can only do certain things in certain times. It's a fun game. I would recommend it if you have children. So, all right. Well, the book sounds great. I mean, and so tell me about the path to publishing. Like, how long did it take you to write? How long?
So it was it was something that it would have been 2 years, or let's see here. Yeah, it would have been 2 years ago at this point that I kind of got the idea or started looking into it. And it was already mostly written at that point in some sense, because what I realized is that if I took a lot of the writings that I'd had over the last 3 to 4 years at that point,
Okay.
and put them together, and then kind of filled in some things, that I actually had a book that kind of made sense or kind of flowed together, like sections and stuff in it. So I had always thought of it, and I had the length too. Like I had the, about 50,000, 60,000 words at that point. Mm-hmm. So I started looking at the options, and the one that I came up with, or the one that I did go with, is called Freeze and Press.
Okay.
And the main reason that I went with them is that they're Canadian. And so it's very helpful for them understanding all of the tax laws and getting money to me. And, like, I don't have to have money going across international companies. Like they can handle the international publishing. Like they have those arrangements already. So
Right.
that's why I felt comfortable going with them. And they are a hybrid publisher.
Okay.
So you can get anything from a self-publishing kind of, they'll do, kind of the cheapest option, where basically you provide them with it. They still want to read everything because they
Okay.
want to be sure of what they're publishing. So they check things first, and if you want kind of the bare bones, they'll do that. But they will do, very all the way up to, like, kind of helping with some of the promotion, doing like walking you through every little bit of it. So I went kind of the midway route. So.
And did you publish your dissertation? Is this your first book, or?
You mean like from like a master's thesis or something like that?
Yeah.
It was, well, that was just, it's just up on the university website. It's not published. It's not what this is. This is more
Okay.
Writing since then. So,
Okay.
and so
Yeah,
like
go
I
ahead.
looked at many different options, but I liked how they did things because it kind of had those best of both worlds, in my opinion. The traditional way, you definitely can make more money that way, but you lose a lot more control. So
Yeah. I mean, and the reality is in book publishing that very few people publish or, sell more than 1,000 books.
exactly, yeah.
And
Yeah,
so when
you
you're
don't
looking
go
at
into publishing a book to think you're going to make a lot of money. So
nobody's making money. But I'm looking at their website, and that one book that actually I've heard of is 3 Minutes for a Dog, A Life from the Lung. And, it was in The Guardian. And, everybody says don't judge a book by a cover. Everybody judges a book by a cover. And so these covers look great. Their website looks very helpful.
did you find my book on there, Practical
Let's see
Regeneration?
here. Let me
If you just
search
search it.
I think it's hilarious. The kids say search it up now. You search up instead of search for.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. And so it has a pop-up screen that's not letting me. I'm going to look it up. Okay.
Well, anyway, I'll just tell you about the cover. Like that was part of the package. Like you can figure out how much,
Oh, yeah.
how
I
much
see the cover.
yeah,
Oh,
how
this
much
is
you want to invest in the book. And so they gave me, so I went with, with the option where they would come up with 3 different potential options. And they do that according to like a fairly extensive checklist or not really survey, but form you fill out.
Okay.
And that was the one that I liked. And
It's beautiful. I love it. It's just to describe it for everybody, it's kind of a teal color with an orange dot kind of in the background, which maybe is the sun, and that it has like the motif of different flowers and a pumpkin maybe, but and then over the top of it is the title, Practical Regeneration, Realistic Strategies for Climate Smart Agriculture. And then it has, your name down there, but it's really a very pretty cover.
So-
like, I would pick it up.
yeah, and that's exactly it. Is that yeah, people do. Maybe I guess people do judge books by covers, but also it's natural. Like you're going to be attracted to ones that have are eye catching, and also in my opinion too, a cover or even like the spine of it has to be something that is going to catch somebody's attention within like less than a second.
Yeah, it's like half a second. Like, will you grab it or not?
Will you even, or even take a second look at it, or scrolling through Amazon or something like that. So, so it has to have something to catch the attention. And the other thing is too that a lot of covers, people put in kind of their favorite photograph in the background, and a lot of times that gets lost in, like when a book is sitting out among hundreds or thousands of them in a bookstore, it kind of gets washed out in the different colors. So it needs to be something that just catches your attention right away. So,
yeah, and I love that. I don't know what the ratio is of how you're selling your book regarding more ebook sales or paperback, but it definitely works as like a thumbprint or like whatever,
a thumbnail, yeah.
A thumbnail. So when you're scrolling through, you can see regeneration, you can see the orange, and it looks very good.
Well, okay, and actually that's a good point too, is that when I was looking at options too, I wanted it to be available for print. So they do print on demand.
Okay.
But then also get into all the ebook markets too. So like the Kindle, the
right. The Nook.
Kobo in Canada and Nook in
right.
the US, and all those, Apple and Google, like it's on all of them. So
help you do an audiobook, or do you think it's not appropriate for an audiobook?
They do have the audiobook option, but it's a lot more expensive.
Okay.
And it does take a lot more work, because either you have to pay somebody to read it, or you have to read it yourself. And so it added quite a bit to the cost to doing that. And it was one where they said, like, it's hard to say how much you would get back on that.
Right.
Like,
the returns are, yeah.
And I know that people do like audiobooks, but for what you get out of it. And the other thing that is in my mind too is that there's already a lot of there already are some books where on your e-reader you can have it just read it to you.
The speech to text technology.
And with how well the AI generated voices are coming, it's not going to sound like, they're going to get so much better that it's not going to sound as robotic. And
right.
You could put all that money into it. And I really think, in a few years, or even definitely in 5 years, like, the only like audiobooks where somebody is actually reading it are going to be the ones like the Harry Potters, or the, those ones where they're almost making it into like an audio drama. Like
an audio drama. Yeah. Actually, it's funny you say that, because they're having the original cast read the books.
Oh.
For Harry Potter. That's like the next thing. So you're spot on.
So I think that's where the market is, or that's where it's going to go, is that like for, it's only going to be something that the top books are going to afford, as like an actual person reading it. Like, I think that like it's amazing what can be done now with the AI generated, and people will say, that people aren't going to accept it, but I think the vast majority of people do, if it's cheaper or already integrated right into their book or into their e-reader.
Yeah, it's a lot faster. Yeah,
it's going to work.
Yeah,
and also you can, like, the other thing, like I heard an author podcast, and she was like, I'm only one voice. Like, maybe somebody wants to listen to it written, or listen to it in a British male voice, or somebody wants to listen to it in a Southern speaking woman's voice, or, you can just pick whatever voice you want. So
yeah, in one of my writing groups, one of my friends who's been working on her book for a long time, she is originally from Alabama, and I have heard her read her book, different parts of it. And so when I read it, I hear her voice in my head, and I totally agree that like it wouldn't work to have like a Mainer reading her book about Alabama. So it actually might be really additive.
Well, and that's and I think even too, like when you get into translation, like maybe Well, and I've even seen this, like I've seen some of it just in like in the really cutting edge stuff on some tech on a tech YouTube channel where somebody can say something and then they can convert it into another language. So
That's
I mean,
amazing.
I can't really see my book getting to that point, but on the other hand, that's where like I kind of see in not too long of a period there won't be much of a need, because say somebody wants to listen to it in Spanish, they it's not maybe going to be perfect, but it might be for somebody that can accept that. They might just say, close enough. I'd rather get some type of translation than not hear it at all.
So now did Frisian Press, did they do, this is a little topic switch, but did they do like an economic analysis to help you? Like, is it worth it for you to publish this book? How many books do we think you can sell?
No, they don't do that.
Okay.
Because that would be where, like the traditional publishing route, a publisher's only going to take a book that they think they can make money on.
Yes.
Obviously,
Right.
And also, like, so the traditional publishing, like, first of all, you have to be good enough to attract a publisher.
Right.
And second, like, the other part of it too is that if they decide, like, if they look and they say, yeah, this would be a great book for our 2026 year, it just sits there until they're ready to publish it. Or, some of them they may not even publish it.
When the speed, you were able to control a lot more variables, many more variables.
Yeah. So it's basically, so like say self-publishing, like say if somebody just has a book and they want to publish it to make, their stories or they've written up their life and they just want to put something out to be able to give to their kids or, friends and family. You can do the self-publishing, like some of the options where you just make a book and get it out there. Or, do a print run and that's it. But yeah, I wanted it to do it because it's always been an idea to publish a book. But it is also for business promotion, or it's part of it's part of what I'm doing with my business. I want, when you can say I've written a book, then it makes a big difference. So.
Absolutely. And so how do you feel that sales have gone? Like, how much publicity have you done, and how have you felt about that aspect of things?
So far, the sales have been fairly good. Let's see here. I haven't got all the April ones in yet. Like, it does take a while for stuff to come in.
Okay.
The first month it was around, let's see here. It was around 100 on for print, for print on demand, or distributors took it, or ebooks, and then also me just selling them directly. And so I'll see what the next month is. I wouldn't anticipate there'd be much, or there wouldn't be as big, because it's, the first month everybody says, oh yeah, you've got a book, so they'll buy it.
Right.
But that's where, like, when you have a traditional publisher, then they're out promoting it and they're doing that work to get it to the
I mean, hopefully they are. I've heard a lot of stories.
Well, that's true. But you see, that's where what Friesen says is, like, we're going to publish it. We make the money from every time it gets printed.
Right.
And they're also a printer too. Like, their core business, or their longer business, like I think for 100 years, has been printing. Like, they've been kind of one of those printers that you don't really hear much about, because they do print runs for anybody that wants things in Canada. But then they also have access to all the print on demand worldwide. So if somebody buys it, I actually have somebody in Australia and New Zealand that have said that they're going to buy it. I haven't heard back from them as to whether they've been successful or not, but in theory, they should be able to buy it. The cost can go up in terms of shipping, but in terms of getting it there, it can happen. So that's why that was another reason why, is that then if people want it, they should be able to get it.
I feel like there's a huge market. I'm sure they have this in Canada, but the Future Farmers of America at all the different high schools. I mean, I think you have kids. I don't remember. But my kids are very focused on the environment and improving things. And, if you have the nexus of a younger person who is interested in going into farming, I mean, this is the kind of book for them.
That's gonna be a lot of what I'm planning on for the fall, and even a little bit in the summer. Like right now, I'm fairly busy with, the crops are growing
Farming.
and things are going
With
on. So
farming.
there's so there's lots of stuff to do right now, and also a lot of people are, a lot of farmers are not looking at buying books right now, or
Right.
so that's really the winter time. Like I wish I would have got things. I would have kept up with some of the deadlines a little quicker on getting things through,
Okay.
and got it out, in January. But that's fine. Now I've kind of made sure all the distribution channels are working, and I've kind of understood some of the kinks in the system. And then now,
Okay.
but then that's the thing, is that that's where, when you are self-publishing, if you do want it out there, you have to do the work to get it out there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're brainstorming. There's like so many places, so many groups. Rotary in the U.S. or Grange organizations would definitely be interested. I mean, a lot of those farmers are older, but I mean, you guys can all see you are living the climate change situation.
Yeah, and I think that's where it just has to, like, you have to make connections, or you have to, or you have to make connections with the people that can make the connections, because the other thing is too, there's so many books coming out. It's that problem of just because anybody can publish a book, well, then everybody publishes a book. So then, so that's where the difference is too. There's so many of them coming out. But mine is hopefully a little different in that a lot of the ones coming out seem to have this, like, it feels like they have the thing figured out and you just have to do it, or they're trying to convince you of the system, whereas I'm looking at it from, well, more practical, and from experience, and from a lot of scientific reading that I've done. Like and I've put my references into, like, anything where I've said, it's a great idea, but it doesn't quite show up the way you're thinking of it as. So.
Right. I mean, and that's great because those are the criticisms of Malcolm Gladwell's books these days, is that, he read a lot of scientific articles and maybe took a few too many leaps with what he was saying. So I appreciate you putting in all of your citations.
Well, that's also another good point, is that you can find whatever you want to prove, you can find the science to prove it. And unfortunately, unfortunately that's how it is. But I think as people kind of like hype cycles always go like this, where something just gets massively hyped up. And gardeners would know this too. Like, there's so many different things that get, it's the new big thing to do every year, but eventually you get to this point where you're just like, okay,
Well, have you heard of mewing? Do you know what this is?
I don't think so.
Well, so the kids are doing it these days, and it's you're in trying to make your jawline look better. So you're like maybe putting your tongue on the top of your mouth, but the kids won't talk while they're doing it. And so they do this funny, like, hush, with their fingers, like, shh, but they don't say anything because they're mewing. But, like, I bring this up because it's like a total hype thing. Like, all 7th and 8th graders are doing this all across America. And, like, the science is like, no, you're not going to increase your jawline by putting your tongue on top of your mouth. You are going to make your parents and teachers very angry by not responding to them when they speak to you because you're supposedly doing this fake thing. But yeah, it's funny how these things do go in cycles. And then, I guess plants go in cycles too, like what you should plant in your garden. It's almost like a fad.
Well, okay, yeah, and actually, and probably Erin would know this a lot better too, with the fads of different plants and what everybody is into, and that has happened definitely in agriculture, like especially with the cover crops. Everybody has all these, and I think there's some people get too deep into things and they read stuff about, a particular plant does this certain thing, and then they think it's going to do. The one that jumps to my mind right now is buckwheat.
Okay.
It is a very good scavenger of phosphorus, which is a tougher nutrient to get into your system or to have available. But it's not like as if you can just start using buckwheat and never fertilize again.
Okay.
And it just gets to be, and also like you go out and to try to buy buckwheat seed like this, and this is where the practical comes in, because I've been working with people and we're like, okay, well, let's look into the prices. And it was going to be like, I think it was like $30 an acre, say, like I'll say that in that's
Okay.
Canadian dollars, but let's say
Sure.
25 US dollars per acre. Let's say that's, it's going to cost you $25 to do that. And then it's maybe another $15 to plant it, actually. So say $40.
Okay.
Well, so say for a gardener, that would be like, a couple bucks.
No big deal.
But for a farmer, if 1,000 acres, there you go. There's
Four grand.
$40,000.
Oh, right. Yeah. An extra zero. That's a lot of money.
So, yeah, it's like, am I going to get $40,000 back? And 1,000 acre, like in Western Canada, farms are 5,000, 10,000 acres. So that could be $250,000 pretty fast. $500,000.
Right. Nobody's putting buckwheat. And now, can you harvest the buckwheat? Would you get any money back?
No, because it's a cover crop. So the whole point is it grows and kind of, does great
okay.
things for your soil, which it does do, but do you get that a benefit pack? And that's the challenging thing. And say like on a small garden, like I have my own garden in the backyard, it would be totally uneconomical, or like I never make, for the amount of labor and whatever I put into the garden, of course I don't make back what I put into it, but it's fun. It's enjoyable. But when you're running a big farm, then it's different. So,
well, it's funny during the pandemic, there were victory gardens. I guess that's what we'll call them.
Oh, yes.
And everybody got into it. And I mean, I did too. I mean, I posted pictures. I listened to Rick and Eric tell me what tomatoes to get. I ordered those tomatoes. But then, somebody was like, I spent all this time growing this tomato that ultimately cost me $50. I could have just bought one at the grocery store. Which, if it's your hobby, cool. That's great. I decided I'm on the Garden Fork podcast, and I admitted this. I don't garden anymore. I'm done with the gardening. That's not my hobby. Maybe Rick will let me fly his plane or something.
So I see we're at about 27 minutes now. So maybe, did you have some other stuff you wanted to talk about with your book publishing? Or your ideas or?
Well, okay. So I could talk about how I published my book real quick.
Okay.
I did have an audiobook. So, okay. All right. We'll get back into it. Sorry about that, Eric. We're back on topic. Okay. So I should just quickly say that my book came out like 6 years ago. It's called Tilting a Memoir, and it's the story of growing up with my parents who were in the airline industry. My mother was a flight attendant. My dad was a pilot. And when I was in college, he became very sick with a staph infection, one of the first MRSA infections, and almost died, but then he didn't die. And then he woke up and decided to leave our family. So that's kind of the jumping off story part of my story. It's a Bildungsroman. It's a coming-of-age story, kind of how I became a real person, rather than the brat that maybe I had been. And so I shopped it around to a bunch of people, and I had taken a lot of classes through the Stanford Online Writing Studio, and I got an offer to publish the book, and through Black Rose Writing, which is a hybrid publisher, not unlike yours. And I asked one of my professors, should I do that or not? And she was like, anybody who wants to publish your book, you should say yes to. Like, it is very difficult to get a book published. So, so I went with Black Rose, and I did not have to pay anything for them to publish the book. I did negotiate to do my own cover, and so I used a company that, what's it called? 99, no, what's it called? Anyway, Kevin Kelly loves this website where I put the project up there and had different book covers. People send me different book covers. And so I picked my own book cover and I paid for it myself. And then you can look it up. It's a picture of it it's funny that you brought up the picture. It's a picture of me and my siblings on the pier in Santa Monica. But it's in color.
What's the book name again?
Tilting a Memoir. So it's on Amazon. You can find it there.
Okay.
I kept control of the cover because I did not like their covers. Their covers have improved. And then the publisher and I split 50-50 the royalties from the book. And I had there's the Authors Guild, which is an organization that helps authors. It supports authors, and you join for like $100. And they will do contract reviews for you, which is incredibly helpful because to your point of like, if you're publishing and you're new to it, you don't know what's standard or what's not standard. So it was very helpful for me for them to look at the contract because they're like, oh, this is a great contract. This, it's very advantageous to the writer, and it's fair, yada, yada. So, and then just every quarter I, get a royalty check. And of course it's 6 years old, but I still get some money every quarter, enough to buy a coffee. So not a ton of money. One cool thing was, they work with an audiobook company and some of their books are selected for audiobooks and they selected my book.
Okay.
So they did do the audiobook for it, which, was great. And I did not pay for that. But I did all of the publicity, all of the trying to get the book out there to different people, and to really think about who the market was for my book. It's women over 40.
Okay.
That's the market for memoir.
I just pulled up the cover, or I just found it on here. So I would say though that your picture, it's got what would it be? The shading and the different lines through it.
The gradation, yeah.
Gradation. So it's not like just a picture. It actually kind of when I look at it kind of from a distance or make it small, it still catches, like it's not like the picture is the main thing.
Right. Like a black and white where you're just like scrolling through.
Or I've seen pictures like people will put in pictures of say like their farm or their garden. And it looks good when you're looking at it on a screen. But then when you put it out in the wild, it kind of just, it kind of blends in or
it blends in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think
that.
in yours too, like the other thing is too, like, if you're in a darkly lit bookstore or the sun shining in or there's different lighting or things shining off of things, that's where those ones disappear. But I think yours would still kind of catch it because it doesn't have many different colors in it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was really pleased with how it turned out. And the title of the book, Tilting, is a reference to, we took this pontoon boat trip when I was little up the Tennessee River Valley. And the pontoon boat my father purchased, one of the pontoons was leaking.
Okay.
And so the boat was literally tilting. And it's also a metaphor for our family. We were kind of like going over the edge.
Okay.
I'm
going to have to read it now. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'm a man over 40, so maybe that's
okay.
Well,
Rick gave it the most lovely review, I have to say. So I think it's the most recent review.
Okay.
And so, going into my second book, I was definitely feeling like I really wanted to have it published by a traditional publisher. I took this big class through the LA Review of Books about publishing, which I highly recommend. That was excellent. And so I, started trying to find an agent. Nobody wants to be an agent yet for my new book. And so my new book is called, it's about my grandmother who grew up in a children's home in St. Louis during the Depression. And then her first husband died in World War II when she was 18. So she was a single mom. And then her second husband embezzled millions of dollars from the state of Illinois as the chief of staff to the comptroller of Illinois. And went to prison. So it's the story of her life. It's a nonfiction. It's as true as I can make it, but it is a fiction.
Okay.
because I wasn't there for all these conversations that she's had, but I did do a ton of research. So right now I was looking at maybe small presses, but Black Rose they reached out, they periodically like, have you written anything else? Would you be interested in publishing? So I'm kind of waiting to see,
See, that's encouraging. So that's good to hear, because it's challenging to get anybody interested in a book these days. Though I will say, one of the nice things about the way I did it is that I retain all the rights to this. So if I did have a publisher reach out and say, hey, we would like to publish it, or write us another book and we'll publish both of them, we'll take them over. I can move it over easily. And Friesen Press says that what they're hoping is that, if they do a good enough job, then I'm going to stick with them. Like, it's not that I'm tied to them. So
right, they don't. Yeah, it's not a contractual relationship in that.
So, okay.
Yeah, so
that was because I remember you've told about that on the podcast before. So that was interesting to hear it again. So I remember hearing bits and pieces of that about the publishing. So
kind of the whole story.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always happy to talk about publishing, and Eric's not here today, but he, I totally think he has a book in him.
Yeah. Maybe he does. Maybe we should talk about that in the after show.
Oh, that's a great idea. Oh my gosh. Okay. So thanks again for chatting with us. Members of Garden Fork's Patreon get the after show. The after show is usually like just chatting about random things. Today we're going to chat about how to get Eric to write a book. And for the price of a coffee, you too can get pictures of the labs frequently on the Patreon app. So highly recommend. All right. Well, thanks so much, Scott. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this went really well. We'll talk to you later.
Garden Fork Radio is produced by Garden Fork Media LLC in Brooklyn, New York. Our executive producer is Jimmy Goots. For more information about Jimmy and the custom hollow books he makes, visit hollowbooks.com. The music in the show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.